Jill Lee, founder and director of the Energy Healing Institute. I am here to talk to you about chakras. And if you want to learn more about energy, about chakras, about consciousness, about healing, please check out our website at energyhealinginstitute.org. So, this video is about the second astral chakra. And this is kind of a Lollapalooza chakra. There is so much that goes on with this chakra. The way I've been addressing this series is not to just talk about the function of the chakra, what it's supposed to be doing. It's really here to talk about what chakras might be involved in the kinds of things that you're experiencing that you might want to evolve. Because, of course, we're all here to evolve. That's what we're here to do. So we may as well get to the root of it, get to the heart of the energy that's driving something, and learn how to resolve it. Because when you know which chakras are doing what in your field, you have agency, you have choice, you have the ability to learn how to regulate and clear and modify how that chakra is functioning. So, second chakra, located 2 fingers below the belly button. So, this is my belly button. 2 fingers below is the placement of the second chakra. This chakra opens out front and behind you in the Western chakra system, which is what most of us spend our time in. And it's all about the seat of the emotions. So if you have an experience and you have an emotional response to that experience, your second chakra is playing a role. I often use the story of going to a movie with my daughter-in-law a few years ago. And the movie we went to see, I had already seen a remake of maybe 15 years prior. And I didn't love the remake 15 years prior. So I went and saw this other movie because I enjoy spending time with my daughter-in-law. And she loved the movie. And I didn't. I sort of thought it was trite and predictable. So who's right? Is my daughter-in-law right? It was a fabulous movie. Or am I right? It was trite and predictable. The answer is we're both right. Because, in fact, her energy, her experience, her emotional connection to the movie had nothing to do with mine, right? My connection to the movie had to do with having seen it previously with different actors and characters, a slightly different storyline, but I knew what was coming. I knew how the ending was going to go. Therefore, for me, it was a little trite, a little predictable. For her experience, this was her first time through the movie. She enjoyed the characters. She enjoyed the storyline. She was very invested in the storyline, and she had a very different experience. Our second chakras were conveying that emotional context to each of us. So that's what your second chakra does. Fabulous, right? What can possibly go wrong? Well, there's more functionality to the second chakra. So I don't want to lead you astray with anything at all, ever. But I do want to convey a couple more things. One is the second chakra is about your sexuality. It's also about your creative energy. So in either case, with your sexuality, with your creative energy, it emerges from within you and then gets manifest out into the world, either through art and creative endeavor or through a sexual experience. Again, all good. That's how it's supposed to function. So let's get into what might be going on with the second chakra when things are not running exactly correctly. And the point of this is not to make anybody wrong about anything, but to give you insight and input into what might be going on in your experience and what chakras are leading you into these experiences. So, second chakra, hands down, anxiety is a second chakra issue. And it's a big problem because anxiety tends to grow. If someone is chronically anxious, then they may have sort of started working on it when they're here, but somehow it just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's because the second chakra is a vacuum, and it is vacuuming in the frequency of anxiety from other people and places. One of my other sort of jokes is when you go to Walmart with a dysregulated second chakra, you go in and you buy milk and you buy whatever, toothpaste, and you pick up anxiety and bring that home if anxiety is one of your things that you do. So I always say stay away from Walmart, but what I really mean is energy regulation is a big deal. And anxiety is a second chakra issue, hands down. Another one that's in that same category of hands down second chakra is perfectionism. There are so many reasons for that. It is, in fact, a regulation issue as well. And it's also a learned pattern, a learned behavior. What other ones are involved? Well, depression, second chakras. Now, notice these are all emotional states, right? Depression is an emotional state, anxiety, emotional state, the need, the drive to have things perfect, emotional state. Being phobic or fearful, second chakra. If you're a rageaholic, if you've got a lot of anger issues, if you're volatile, you go off quickly, then that's a second chakra thing. Now, I want to remind you, as I've said in the other videos, or in case you haven't watched the other videos, this may not be the only chakra that is generating these experiences. However, you can know beyond a shadow of a doubt that if the issue is emotionally based, the second chakra is going to have a role, and it's going to be a big role. Disembodiment. If you are disengaged, disconnected from yourself, then there is a way, and there's lots of people, by the way, who would describe themselves as emotionally disconnected. In fact, sometimes I would say to clients, well, how does that feel as they talk about an experience? And they would answer with, well, I think. And I said, no, no, I didn't ask what you think. I asked what you feel. And they come back around and have to sit with it to get to their emotional state of awareness. So, emotionally disconnected can be a really big thing. Caretaking, putting others' needs ahead of yourself. Learned behavior with a very strong second chakra correlation. If you describe yourself as an empath or an HSP, highly sensitive person, massive second chakra regulation issue. I say this all the time when people talk to me about being an empath. One of my first questions is, was there trauma in your childhood? And I want to tell you that I've been doing this work for 35 years now. I have never heard someone who calls himself as an empath or an HSP say, no, no trauma. Always. Early childhood, most of the time. So, a way in which you've learned to be very sensitive, to sense what's going on around you so that you're safe. And so I always say empaths are not born, they are made. And it is energy dysregulation. Porosity. If you take on other people's emotions, if you are really good at sensing, oh, something bad happened to you earlier today, or even physically, I can feel what's going on in your elbow. You have tonight a tennis elbow, right? That's a porosity where your energy is not contained enough to be separate from somebody else, and you simply absorb what's happening with the other person. If your trauma runs the show, now this is other chakras involved here. First chakra is often a major player in this, but also the second chakra can have a huge role in this issue. If you're easily overwhelmed, if you can't go to malls or crowded places, or if there are more than two things happening at once around you, you start to sort of feel yourself shut down and need to disengage. It's actually an absorption issue. It's another version of porosity. If you are burned out, depleted, fatigued, just sort of carrying the weight of the world, then that's also a second chakra issue. This is something that I deal with practitioners all the time because they're so used to sensing into and feeling their client's energy that they don't realize the implications to themselves and they start to burn out. I've used this in the first chakra video. If you don't remember your past, second chakra issue. If you have what I call chameleon behaviors, if you're with Barbara, you act this way, and if you're with George, you act that way, and if you're with your mother, you act that way. You change colors depending on what somebody else expects from you. That's a second chakra thing. So you're really good at saying, oh, this person wants me to be yellow, this person wants me to be green, and you just shift accordingly and become who they need you to be. And lastly, boundary issues. Boundary issues can go both ways. You have trouble with holding onto your own boundaries, or you may be usurping other people's boundaries because when boundaries are a thing, it kind of runs in both directions. You don't know where to set boundaries, and you don't know how to experience other people's boundaries. So these are all second chakra things. And I hope it's useful to you in thinking about, gee, what's going on with me and what chakras might I need to pay attention to as I do the work to evolve beyond these patterns and behaviors.